sea and it's a memory and I can taste it. It's so pure it could be the cure, don't wanna waste it. Nice cool breeze grace upon my knees and that's a given. When I open my eyes and I look outside, am I in heaven? So when the clouds pass by my way, I let the thoughts just drift away. When my blue skies turn to gray, I let them pass into yesterday. 'Cause I'm living in a daydream. I don't know what it all means. I'm living in a daydream, just taking in the whole scene.
What you think, man?
Aloha, my name is Justin Lee, and I'm a SIKA ambassador and a huge advocate for FreediveSafe Hawaii. In this video, we're going to talk about why this thing off to my left over here is so important to me and so important to the community of the world. You're going to learn about be a safer diver, be a better dive buddy, and the conservation side of it, so that ensures the next generation will get to enjoy safely, enjoy it, and consume from it.
If there's one thing that I hope that people can take away from this video, it's a mentality that diving is a team sport, and that anytime that we head out there, our life is in our buddies' hands and theirs and ours. We have to have each other's backs. And if you guys practice this, are always looking out for each other and always have the best intentions in mind, we can work together to make sure that we always come home safe at the end of the day.
Like when YouTube first started coming out with buddies and seeing my face on there, so a lot of us are like, Lillian, your boy can get us fish.
What's your favorite fish to eat?
Kole.
Kole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You clear out the refrigerator today, I'm not gonna have anything tomorrow.
And it's a sport that connects so many people in this community.
Aloha, my name is Nikki Stepanek and I am the founder of FreediveSafe Hawaii. I started this organization in August 2020 to address the rise of freediving and spearfishing related fatalities in Hawaii and our ocean communities around the world. 2020 was our deadliest year on record and many of these victims were youth. Freediver blackout leading to drowning is the primary cause of death in our sport, and we can prevent these fatalities by ensuring we're following some key safety rules that Dylan is sharing in this video. I know how well they work because they've saved my life 5 times. And without my dive buddy following these rules, I wouldn't be standing here today. As a former competitive freediver, I've pushed myself to the extreme. But we have 13-year-olds going out within their first year or two of diving to catch fish for their ohana, experiencing freediver blackout and never coming home again. Nobody can stand here and say it's a safe sport. We have the human body with depleting levels of oxygen and an ocean environment. It's definitely not safe if you're alone. Nearly everyone knows not to dive alone, but it really means close teamwork out there. Most fatal accidents show they were accompanied but unwitnessed. So we've got a group of friends going out and scattering over the reef to chase their own fish, throwing each other a shaka now and then from 100 feet away. That's not safe diving. If something goes wrong, you need to be within arm's reach or diving distance of your diver to protect their airway, keep that person safe on the surface until they come around, which is usually within seconds. It's such an important sport for us. We love it and we want to ensure everyone knows the safety rules to keep our community safe.
Aloha guys, my name's Dylan Courier. I'm a professional freediving instructor at FreediveSafe Hawaii, and I'm here to talk to you about freediving and spearfishing safety. I've been teaching freediving since 2016 after I fell in love with spearfishing and breath hold diving. I've worked with over 500 divers as an instructor and coach, and in this video, I'm going to share some of the most important things to know in order to come back home safe anytime you swim out for a dive. We hope that this video will shed some light on how you can help promote spearfishing safety in our community. In order to be a safe diver, we must first understand how our bodies respond to low levels of oxygen. If we understand this and implement safety protocols anytime we are spearfishing or diving, we can prevent these incidents from claiming lives and help protect our ocean-going community. You may have heard of blackout incidents in the news. You may know of someone who's lost their life to spearfishing or freediving, and some of you may have even lost a loved one to the ocean. These tragedies are preventable. Oftentimes, the headlines in the news will refer to a diver losing their life to a blackout. It's very important to recognize that in any freediving related fatality, the cause of death is always drowning. Drowning is defined as the inhalation of water or water in the lungs. We must prevent this at all costs, and this is possible by understanding how the blackout is actually designed to protect us from drowning and taking advantage of this survival response we are all born with. Remember, blackouts do not kill, drowning does.
You know, back in 2020, right when COVID hit, was the deadliest year in Hawaii with water-related incidences, and that's so alarming and so scary. The sad thing is, once you get into the spearfishing world and the spearfishing community, hearing of someone dying or having a critical incident is kind of like someone having cancer. Everybody knows someone that has either died or had a critical incident from it, and we want to get to the level where we don't know anybody.
While the safety procedures you learn in this video will inform you on how freediving safety can save lives, there is no substitute for practical in-water safety training. Come jump in one of our safety events to learn what it takes to bring your buddy home safe in the case of a hypoxic incident. Hypoxia, simply put, is a low level of oxygen, specifically a low level of oxygen in our brain. There's many ways that we can become hypoxic that are not breath hold or breath hold diving related, such as going up to altitude. If you have ever been up to Mauna Kea, at 14,000 feet, it's a little bit harder to breathe up there. That's because there's a little bit less oxygen at that altitude. And you will feel it if you do some jumping jacks or run around a little bit. You might notice you get a little winded, out of breath. That is that low level of oxygen taking effect. Our body's going to respond to this insufficient level of oxygen by experiencing either a loss of motor control or a blackout. If we reach this threshold of this insufficient level of oxygen just when we get back to the surface, but we're at the surface, we start breathing, and we're kind of teetering on the edge of that threshold, that is where a loss of motor control has the potential to occur. A loss of motor control, also known as an LMC or a SAMBA, is where we have random electrical signals being shot throughout the brain that manifests itself in uncontrollable muscle movements, spasms, and an inability to control our breathing. The reason this only occurs at the surface is because we have facial receptors located in our pores around our eyes, nose, mouth, and forehead, which detect temperature differences to tell the brain whether or not our body is submerged in water or in an atmosphere where it's safe to breathe. If we are submerged with our face underwater when our brain reaches this insufficient level of oxygen, it's going to make the critical decision to put us into a blackout. Compared to the loss of motor control, when we experience a blackout, we have a full shutdown of consciousness and a full loss of breathing. This cessation or pause in our breathing is intended to save oxygen. Why would we make a breathing movement if there's no air to breathe? Doesn't really make much sense. So we might as well save the energy that muscle movement would require by not breathing at all. At the same time, we're now underwater, and drowning is defined by the inhalation of water into the lungs, something that we need to prevent at all costs. One of the components of the blackout is a funny word called a laryngospasm. Root word of that would be larynx, aka your vocal cords, and a spasm. So naturally it's a spasm of the vocal cords. You may have experienced a laryngospasm yourself anytime that you were in an excited conversation and you tried taking a sip of water while you were talking and started immediately choking. That is simply your body's means of preventing any water from going down the wrong pipe. So let's consider that we went diving alone, didn't pay attention to this video, and we blacked out by ourselves. Now we have these protective mechanisms to keep our lungs dry and save oxygen, but we only have so much oxygen left in the tank. Keep in mind, when we black out, we still have oxygen left. However, if we are face down in the water with no one to assist us, turn us right side up, support us, protect our airway, and get us into a situation where it's safe to breathe, we're going to remain in that face down position until we run out of oxygen. Once the tank is empty, we have no choice but to try to take a breath. This is called a terminal gasp. This is your body's last chance to breathe. And if we inhale water at this point in time, that is where permanent brain damage and or death will take place.
Freediving is supposed to be like meditative. You know, you're on the surface, 60 feet of water, breathing up, taking your time, going slow, just trying to calm your heart rate down. And you're not scared of anything. You're like one with the ocean at that point, and you just kind of feel safe. And I feel like that also blinds a lot of people. That feeling of safety, it's kind of a false feeling of safety. You shouldn't be feeling that, because in reality, the ocean's incredibly dangerous. You've got lots of swell, currents, animals. You think you're the apex predator, you're not the apex predator out there. And it can be dangerous. It's heart-wrenching in my opinion. Every time I see on the news, oh, a diver's been missing, like a diver's went missing, diver's gone missing off of North Shore. We recently had 2 divers go missing off of Velzy lands, and I think that that's just heartbreaking, because even though I don't know those people personally, I still feel like, you know, they're part of the community and they enjoy what I enjoy, and that gives us a connection. We still have that connection of, we have a love for the ocean, we have a love for the land and how we provide for our families, and it's sad knowing that you've lost a community member.
Here's a lover man, Mr. RSP. Everybody know me from the B.I.G. Island things feel like an island king. When my songs come on, the whole island sings. I'm blessed, yes, living my best life.
Looks like you're getting flour in your ear.
My name is Jordan, and from Honoka.
Solid. Yeah, Jordan is one of the young Amas from Honoka as well. And you know, like, what does it mean to you to be able to catch your own food, whether it's from the ocean or from hunting with your papa? You know, what does it mean to you?
Like, it's fun, and you don't have to pay, really. You don't have to pay, like, you have to pay money to buy food.
That's what it is, you know. It's like you said, it's fun. It's the reason that it's fun is because you get to spend time with your papa, you get to spend time outside. Yeah, you get responsibilities that come with it. And then, you know, like you said, you know, for a big rural community like we live in Honoka, I mean, the price of food at the local grocery store can be crazy. You know, that's the raddest thing, is you look back and you look at all the lessons learned and all the great meals that we've had, and then you laugh about the near-death experiences. You know, and I think, you know, in the next generation that's coming up, you know, like, shucks, when we were in high school, how many guys dove?
I can't even think. A handful of guys.
A handful, right?
Yeah.
And now it seems like every kid has a spear gun, everybody has a mask and fins. And so, you know, the sport has grown in popularity. And so has, you know, unfortunately, the deaths and the water incidences, you know. And we grew up in a time where, it seemed there was no social media, so it was just for us. And that was the biggest thing, is that we did it for us, did it for the right reasons, caught what we needed to catch, shared when we needed to share, and had each other's back in and out of the water. Like, one of my favorite fish to chase out here in Hawaii is the kumu, or the white-saddled goatfish, and it's truly endemic to Hawaii, and you just don't see them very often. And so the water, may be calm 4 or 5 times this month, and if you follow the rules or the regulations that I like to put through, and only keep 5 fish, well, if you go in and you take 2 kumu every dive, at the end of that month, you've taken 10 kumu off the reef, which I believe is too much. And so, if everything comes into play, and when you decide to shoot that fish, when is the last time I shot one of those? How big is it compared to the rest that I've seen along the reef? Is it better to take the biggest one off the reef? Is it better to take a medium-sized one off the reef? And all of those have to come with just time in the water. And, and as someone that jumps in the water, along this coastline all the time, I've got a pretty good grasp on what I believe is a takeable fish. And I think everybody around the state of Hawaii, or even in whatever part of the world that you're in, your reefs better than anybody else. And we have to take it upon our shoulders to harvest responsibly. And in addition to just what we have, but share it with everybody that comes into your ocean. Share it to everybody that comes into your lake or your river.
We want these fish species to last for generations to come. So if you want to give fish to your friends, give fish to your friends, but you don't need to catch like 20 uhus every time you go out diving and then post it on your Instagram and be like, I have uhu for sale. Like, leave some for the rest of us. Like, are you kidding me right now? Yeah.
I'm blessed, yes, living my best life. Lopaka Rootz, high and I come through with the RSV crew, having the best time. Good vibes, don't make any kind, cause people get crazy.
It's possible for a loss of motor control to escalate into a blackout. This might happen due to insufficient recovery breaths or a poor safety response. Either way, a blackout requires a different safety approach. Let's look at how we can assist the victim once they've blacked out at the surface. Remember, the most important thing to do is protect the airway at all costs. However, once in a blackout state, the diver has the protective mechanisms in place to save oxygen, keep their lungs dry, and protect their brain. Reflexes they simply do not have during an LMC. We need to get them floating at the surface on their back in a position where it is safe to breathe. We're going to do this with something called the do-si-do position, which you would learn in one of our FreediveSafe events. The main concept of the do-si-do is to put the blackout victim on their back, keep them supported, and keep their airway clear for an air exchange so they can breathe. If sea conditions allow it, it can be beneficial to remove the diver's mask, blow across their face, and talk to them. Remember, remove the mask, blow, tap, and talk. This must be done slowly and carefully, but can speed up recovery by stimulating the senses and facial receptors. It is also possible to black out underwater, which is most likely to occur close to the surface. This requires an immediate response by the safety diver, as they must protect the diver's airway and transport them immediately to the surface. To protect the airway, place your hands over the victim's face, using the palm to close their mouth and fingers to keep the mask on, while placing the other hand on the back of the head. We can use our forearms to grip the torso and now swim them to the surface and guide them onto their back. Once floating face up, you can put them in the do-si-do position, remove the mask, blow, tap, and talk. Sound is the last sense that we lose and the first to return, so always make sure to talk to your buddy. While hypoxic incidents may sound scary, the blackout is actually trying to protect us. In fact, it is part of a secondary survival response called the mammalian diving reflex. Also known as the MDR, the dive response differs from our fight or flight response, which is our primary survival response. The fight or flight works by mobilizing our entire cardiovascular system, supplying blood carrying oxygen to all of our muscles throughout the body. In comparison, the dive response redirects blood flow strictly to the vital organs, aka the heart and the brain, temporarily depriving our arms and legs of oxygen in order to conserve this precious fuel in a breath hold scenario. Simultaneously, our heart rate slows down, furthermore saving as much energy as possible. These effects of the dive response are intended to conserve oxygen, increase our body's O2 consumption efficiency, and promote oxygen supply to the brain. Let's look at some of the other ways the dive response is designed to protect our bodies in an underwater breath hold scenario. In order to recognize an oncoming hypoxic issue in your dive buddy or in yourself, it's essential that we understand the signs and symptoms of hypoxia. Signs are things that we see, while symptoms are things that we feel. As a dive buddy, we look for signs of hypoxia in our partner when they return from a dive, whereas as a diver, we look for symptoms of hypoxia within ourselves. Signs of hypoxia include confusion, faulty judgment, emotional instability, cyanosis, a loss of motor control, and convulsions. A diver who is hypoxic at the surface might appear confused or slightly out of it, may say something funny, do something that doesn't make sense. Their emotions also might be significantly heightened, where a diver is unreasonably excited, happy, angry, or sad, depending on how they are feeling when the hypoxia sets in. Hypoxia can be recognized and gauged by something called cyanosis, also known as a bluing of the lips. By comparing the color of a diver's lips immediately after surfacing to how they looked before the dive, this color change can indicate how low on oxygen they are. The darker the lips, the more hypoxic. Cyanosis is a great tool to objectively measure hypoxia in your body. When a diver is so hypoxic that they are experiencing a loss of motor control, this is something that can be easily recognized by their body language. On top of losing control over their muscle movements, an LMC victim also usually loses ability to control their breathing and may also experience bodily convulsions. These are clear signs of an LMC and warrant immediate assistance by the safety diver. Symptoms of hypoxia, things that the diver would feel, include euphoria, dizziness, confusion, tingling and numbness, and visual disturbances, as well as the LMC itself. Euphoria is a positive sensation of happiness, similar to a runner's high or a sugar rush. However, despite feeling good, this is an indication of hypoxia if you feel like this after the dive. It is also possible to return to the surface low on oxygen and experience some lightheadedness, dizziness, or confusion. When hypoxia becomes more severe, tingling or numbness and visual disturbances may be experienced. Tingling or numbness typically begins in a loss of sensation in our extremities such as our fingers, toes, ears, and nose, and slowly works its way towards our body's core. This is similar to the numbing sensation you may have from a trip to the dentist's office or when your leg falls asleep. The tingling or numbness will become more and more severe as hypoxia increases due to the redirection of blood away from our body's extremities. Visual disturbances are also a telltale sign of significant hypoxia and typically start as color changes, progressively becoming more and more intense. Colors may turn darker, change color, turn gray, and the walls of our vision may slowly narrow into tunnel vision. This might be similar to the experience of standing up from the couch too fast. Tingling, numbness, and visual disturbances are the more severe symptoms of hypoxia and occur just prior to experiencing an LMC. Have you ever come up from a dive and felt lightheaded, tingly, or had changes to your vision? You may have been close to experiencing a hypoxic issue yourself. Keep in mind, anytime a diver experiences a loss of motor control or a blackout, they are done diving for the day, as the odds of it occurring again in the same day are very high. The diver must get some rest in order to recover from the oxygen deficit they have subjected their body to. Go home, eat some food, get a good night's sleep, go diving the next day, and figure out how to keep it from happening again. When it comes to a blackout, we must also be familiar with the signs and symptoms, although the list is much shorter. A blackout victim will go limp or rigid, release their air, and display extremely dark or pale lips, and may experience convulsions as they lose consciousness. The release of air is the most telltale sign of the blackout. Remember, Bubbles are troubles. If you ever see your buddy release their air underwater and stop moving, they just blacked out and require your immediate assistance. Because a blackout victim loses consciousness, they often experience short-term amnesia, and because of this, it's common for the blackout victim to be unaware that they even blacked out at all.
I am Wayne's biggest fan, and in the same word, if we go hunting together, if he shoots a ram, I want to shoot one just a little bit bigger, you know? I am so excited with him, and I share the stoke with him, but there's a part of me that's all like, ooh, now the bench is there, how do I get there? You know, and I think that's just, you know, that just makes, you know, the friendship and the bond and the memories that much more cemented, is that we push each other. We push each other to be better, you know, and now we're both dads. So now we know the importance of being able to pass this lifetime, this lifestyle onto the next.
Doing this and having this lifestyle of always being in the ocean and hunting for my food with my friends, that like, I'm always gonna have a solid crew to jump in the water with and, you know, and learn from. I've met so many cool people along the way that have taught me what they know, and then in turn, whatever they've taught me, I like to try and pass that on to the next person I'm diving with that maybe has never seen that trick before, or, you know, little things like that. I ain't gonna give you my spots, but I'll show you a couple of different tricks and things like that.
My name's Lily Meyer. I'm 17 years old, and I grew up here on the beautiful North Shore of Oahu, and I spearfish and I freedive. I've been freediving for not that long now, actually. Only about 3-4 years, since 2020. I always look out for a lot of people that I know that dive unsafe, and whenever I hear someone say, oh, I'm gonna go dive this spot, blah, 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 I'll be like, hey, do you have a buddy going out with you? And when they say no, I'll be like, do you wanna come and pick me up? Because I'm basically always open to go and jump in the water with people. Like, honestly, that's what it's for. That's what we're here for, and I think that teamwork and community is such a big thing, and it's good. It's good to get out there and make those connections and have those people to talk to, because, you know, once you make all these connections, now you have a bunch of different dive buddies on all parts of the island. They can drive you anywhere. You can go to any dive spot. It's smart. It's logical. But yeah, you should totally go dive with buddies. Like, it makes everything so much funner, in my opinion.
My dad calls me over, and he's all like, hey, go spear that taco. And I'm sitting on the surface at, you know, I think 9.5 years old now, floating on the surface, and it's like 15 feet deep, and I don't see anything. And my dad's all like, it's right there on the top of that boulder, and all I see is boulders. And I'm like, where is it, Dad? My dad went down and basically touched it with his spear so that it would change colors so that I would see it. And of course, you know, now I look back at it and I'm like, I did not have the taco eye when I was younger. And but I went down there and speared it, and it just turned into a tangled mess. I was that guy that had it riling up his arm, taking his mask off, you know, at 9 years old, freaking out. I could only imagine what my dad was thinking. And but when it was all said and done, we brought it out of the water, and it was just shy of 8 pounds. And at 9.5 years old, I remember holding it up like this as like the gold medal in the Olympics, and his tentacles were still touching the ground, you know. And I think that's what really cemented for me was how special of a place this is. It was something that I could share with my dad, you know, and how no matter what it is we do in this ocean, it really comes down to teamwork. And had I been able to get that octopus without my dad? Probably not, you know. And but having my dad watch over me and see that is one of my fondest memories, and one of my core memories when it comes to spearfishing. And you know, since then I've caught an octopus with all of my buddies, and that's why I've got it tattooed on my shoulder as a reminder that when I jump in the water, it's not just me in the water, but it's me and my buddies, and to ensure that my buddies got my back.
Now that we know the signs and symptoms of different ways that hypoxia can manifest itself, we can be better prepared for the moment we have to respond to a situation when diving. If you dive or spearfish long enough, eventually you will have to handle an LMC or a blackout. And if armed with the training that we teach, you will be prepared to react immediately and ensure your buddy's survival. We have 4 main golden rules of direct supervision. 1 up, 1 down, arms reach distance, are you okay, and wait 30 seconds. Our first golden rule is 1 up, 1 down. Simply put, what that means is for every diver that's making a dive, there's a safety for them that stays at the surface. That safety at the surface is responsible for supervising the diver before, during, and after their dive. Our second rule is arms reach distance. And this means that the safety diver should be within arm's reach distance of the surfacing diver by the time they get back up to the world above. Arm's reach distance is not from me to you. It is from here to here. It's especially important to be within arm's reach distance of the surfacing diver in any event involving a loss of motor control. Because during a loss of motor control, we do not have the protective mechanisms associated with the blackout, it puts the LMC victim into a very precarious state where they are unable to keep themselves afloat and breathe when they want to. This could very quickly lead to a situation of drowning, and therefore it's essential that the safety diver is within arm's reach distance when that diver reaches the surface so they can immediately assist by reaching out, supporting, and keeping the victim's airway above the water. Our third golden rule is, are you okay? This is an exchange that should be made between diver and safety once the diver gets back to the surface and finishes their recovery breathing. Rather than a communication, this is actually a motor skill test, which brings more of the body into view and allows the safety diver to examine the diver's behavior to make sure they're not experiencing a loss of motor control. Our last golden rule is to wait 30 seconds when the diver gets back to the surface and begins breathing again before the safety turns their back to get ready for their own dive. We just simply want to make sure that all of that oxygen reaches the brain without any issue occurring, as there tends to be a little bit of a delay between the first breath taken and when those molecules of oxygen actually reach their destination.
And so this is like where there was a crane over there that used to take the sugar and put it on the ships that come into this channel. So you see all these big anchors out there, these big chains and everything like that. But I swear, if you blindfolded me and dropped me anywhere between the shoreline and 110 feet, I have probably laid down next to that rock. It's one of my favorite places. Like, yeah, this is the place where I'll come out here and dive for 6 or 7 hours, catch a fish on my way in. On my way in, so I don't have to drag it around. But one of the biggest tiger sharks I've ever seen was like right there. I jumped in the water, I went down, and this is probably why I don't spearfish until I'm on my way back in. I jumped down in, the ranchers are like, hey, I have a big party, can you spear me a big uhu? It's like, yeah. My first drop, a big uhu came up, and I speared it, and of course it started to get a little feisty and bleed a little bit. And I got to the surface, and it made me look up, and this submarine swam past me. I was all like, oh! And I came out of the water, and that was the end of that dive. But I've seen her now probably 2 or 3 times. And I think so. I was laying on the bottom one day, and she swam over me, and I was like, dang. She's never messed with me or anything. Never even stole a fish from me, but freaks me out, that's for sure. So if there's one thing that's consistent with spearfishing anywhere you are, is that there is chaos as soon as you leave the surface. I always tell people, if fish can scream, it would be the loudest place on the planet. It's an eat or be eaten world out there, and us as aliens into that world, we have to be able to put ourselves into a Zen state and be comfortable in being uncomfortable. You know, a good friend of mine, Kimmy Werner, always says, when it's time to speed up, it's time to slow down. And that's exactly correct. When you feel like you need air and you need to get to the surface quickly, find your comfort space and slowly kick to the surface. You know, a million things can go wrong in the ocean if you react too quickly.
One other safety component that we always need to take in consideration is our buoyancy. Buoyancy is what will determine whether we sink or float in the water column. And this will change throughout our position in the water column as our lungs and our wetsuit compresses. As we go deeper, we will become negatively buoyant. It is essential that we dial in our weighting so that we are not overweighted to the point where we would sink too close to the surface. The best way to check our buoyancy is do a surface buoyancy check. Super simple. All you have to do is take a full inhalation at the surface, don't kick, and see where your shoulders lie in accordance to the surface.
My name is Mike Jutt. I'm a firefighter here with the County of Hawaii, and prior to this I was a lifeguard for ocean safety for 11 years. I've spent a lot of time in and around the water, and one of the things I've learned from all the time spent in the water is that the ocean's unpredictable, and you have to have a plan when you're getting into the water and have a direction as to the way you want your day to go. So a lot of important things are things that need to be done before you even get in the water, as far as knowing what the tide's doing, knowing if the surf's gonna come up, knowing which way the currents generally run in a certain area, having a good idea where your entry and exit points are gonna be. Everyone's got people on land back home that care about them. A good thing to do is to make sure that those people know when you plan on getting out of the water, like how long your dive might be, so that if you think you're gonna be on a dive for 3 or 4 hours, when a couple more hours past that go by, they're ready to call 911 and get people to come looking for you if you haven't made it back in time. Having a designated float plan with your partner as to where you're gonna get in the water, where you're gonna get out, and what to do if you get separated from each other, where to meet up. Even as simple as knowing where the key is inside your car if you went with your buddy and they hid the key somewhere inside the car, what the combo is, or what tire you hidden underneath, or what rocket's underneath by the car. There's a lot of programs out there for you guys to go and get certified in CPR. I think it's something that everyone should know how to do. Not only will it help you if anything ever happens out in the water, but you could be out at a restaurant having dinner and you could possibly save somebody's life if they go into cardiac arrest while you're sitting there. Also, knowing first aid is a great thing to know. You know, we're dealing with sharp spears, knives, fish that got teeth and got spines. It's good to know how to, dress a wound and take care of yourself if something does go wrong. There's also programs throughout all the islands for the junior lifeguard program. The Hawaiian Lifeguard Association, as well as the counties, put on their own junior lifeguard programs that are excellent. There's been instances in the past where, kids your guys' age that have been out in the water before the lifeguards were on duty were able to save someone's life because of what they learned during the junior lifeguard program. The key points to really remember is that when you're in the water with your partner, your buddy's life is in your hands, and that starts before you guys even get in the water, which again is knowing where to get in, knowing where to get out, and sometimes things don't go the way as planned, so maybe where's the next spot you can get out. Planning your dive, making sure your friends and family know where you're gonna be and approximately when you're gonna get out, and really contacting them the moment you get out, labeling your floats, so if you do lose your float and it drifts in somewhere else, there's a phone number on there, or if you have to ditch your float and come in to get in safely somewhere else, when that float's found offshore, someone can call that number and you'll be able to tell them, oh no, I'm safely on shore, everything's okay. So there's not an all-out search going on for you when you're in reality all good just a few miles down the road because you drifted down there and had to get out further down the way.
And as a free diver, the connection is there so much more as well. Even more of on a spiritual level more than on the freediving side of it. you're not getting anything other than, you know, pure just life. You know, you're not getting any food from it, you're not getting anything, you just want to immerse yourself in it.
I'm living in a daydream. I don't know what it all means. I'm living in a daydream. Just taking in the whole scene. Look into the sea and it's a memory and I can taste it.
So in love with the sport, and I'm so in love with freediving. And I feel like not a lot of people see that, but when I got to bring him into it and he asked me, hey, can you take me spearfishing? I was like, yeah, let's go. And then like, I don't know, 3 dives in, he was like, let's go diving every day. Every weekend we're going diving. We're going diving once, sometimes twice a week.
It's like another world down there. I know that if somebody blacks out on the bottom, that you always close their mouth and close your nose and make sure that they don't inhale water when they wake up on the surface.
Hawaii has the second highest rate of drowning in the nation, just behind Alaska. It's the leading cause of death in our infants to 16-year-olds. And while most of these fatalities are happening between the ocean and pool, spearfishing plays a significant role in these statistics. And we as a community need to work harder to address it and keep everyone safe, because that's what it's about. It's our kuleana as an island community to share water safety education.
You know, we always get asked, what makes the best spear fisherman out there? And I am a true advocate for the best spear fisherman out there is the one having the most fun. You know, being a father of 2 young ones, that's what it all comes down to, is ensuring this life that I love to live and this place that I enjoy to be called my backyard will always be the community's refrigerator. You know, I was told a long time ago that every experience, every person has a quiver of arrows. And maybe it's because I do a lot of archery hunting that this analogy works for me. But every experience, every book, every person has a quiver of arrows. And it's our responsibility to take a good arrow from everybody, from every experience. Whether it's a learning experience, whether it's a successful experience, whether it's someone new or someone old, learn something from them and put it in that quiver so that when you are in the ocean and it does get it too excited, you've got a quiver of answers that you can call upon. Challenge everybody that's listening to this video to really pay it forward and take care of the next guy that jumps in the water with you.
I don't know what it all means. I'm living in a daydream. Just taking in the whole scene. Look into the sea and it's a memory and I can tell you.